Hey there and welcome to my channel. Today I wanted to talk about something that's really close to me, and that's the symptoms around my colon cancer diagnosis, or specifically probably the 6 most important symptoms that you shouldn't ignore. Now, I had some of these symptoms to greater or lesser degree, but I want to go through them, and if you stick with me until the end, I'm going to share some more anecdotal symptoms that I experienced that I would say less people talk about. So, without further ado, let's go on with the video. Life is absolutely beautiful. And you gotta live it. So, the first symptom that I certainly experienced, and it was the one that actually led to my eventual diagnosis of colon cancer, was anemia. So, I happened to have a round of blood tests ordered because of my age more so than the symptoms that I was showing. And what came back was an issue around iron. So anemia is a shortage of red blood cells that carry oxygen around the body, and the symptoms of anemia are tiredness and fatigue. Now I would say I was not chronically tired, but certainly noticeably. So around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, sort of 10, 11 o'clock in the morning, I'd get uncharacteristically tired. It wasn't uncommon for me to have to sleep at 4 o'clock. So that's number one. So if you're feeling tiredness, if you're feeling fatigue and you can't explain it, it's unexplained, you're not physically exerting yourself anymore, you're not overly stressed, you're not mentally drained from work or life in general, then I strongly recommend that you get that checked out. So on to symptom 2, and that is blood in the poo. Now, I personally didn't have blood in my stool or that I could see with the naked eye, but this is certainly one of the biggies. And if you see blood in your poo, then 1000% go and get that checked out. It's again, it may not be cancer, it could be hemorrhoids, it could be something else, but it's not normal. Get it checked out. I eventually had a FIT test, which is a fecal immunochemical test, which is a fancy name for scooping up poo and then sending it off to the lab. And it was actually that showed that there was blood slowly leaking out of my colon. It was obviously being picked up by the stool that passed it and being deposited into the toilet. So get yourself checked out. Maybe nothing, could be something. So from poo to symptom number 3. Now, this for me was certainly, with the power of hindsight, the earliest symptom that I actually experienced, and it was potentially, now we can't prove this, but it was potentially about 2 years before my actual colorectal diagnosis, and it was stomach cramps, stomach pain. So I've never had IBS, I've never suffered with anything like that, but occasionally and sporadically, and this was the issue, it wasn't constant, it wasn't every time that I ate, but maybe for a week, every other day, I may get a spasm in my stomach, a kind of cramp, and it would last a few seconds and then disappear. And I spoke to the doctor about it at the time. And as I say, bear in mind, this was 2 years before my colon cancer diagnosis, and they kind of gave me some tablets, and I didn't finish the full course because it went away. Then it would come back a couple of months later, and that's worth mentioning with symptoms of colon cancer. You know, they're kind of not like, oh my god, there's loads of blood in my poo, or oh my god, I've got stomach cramps every single day, there's something clearly wrong. They come and go. It's known as the silent killer for a reason. So again, it could just be IBS. Keep a track of your food, keep a track of what you're eating. It may be that you've developed an intolerance to something. That does happen as we get older. But if it's, if you've got them for a couple of months, even if they're on and off, even if you only get them briefly like I did, again, get yourself checked out. So on to symptom number 4. And again, this was something that I personally didn't experience, but it's another biggie, not just for colon cancer, but cancer in general, and that's unexplained weight loss. So if you're starting to lose weight for no reason, if you're not doing a new exercise regime, if you're not doing, if you've not radically changed your diet, if there's no reason for you to be losing weight, then 100% don't even think about it. Go and get yourself checked out, because that could be an indicator that something's not quite right in your bowel. So back to poo-like symptoms with symptom number 5, and that's a change in bowel habits. Now, that could be a wide range of things, and again, it doesn't have to be severe. A friend of mine, literally, as I mentioned before, had tar. It was like a black tar. His poo was like a black tar. Interestingly, a symptom that, again, was kind of overlooked, interestingly. But for me now, with hindsight, and especially a couple of months leading up to my diagnosis, it was just inconsistent. So it would be solid one day and fine. It would be a lot wetter to diarrhea to almost water. And stupidly, as I say, looking back now, it was very inconsistent. So day to day, which I just kind of dismissed. So it could be that you have diarrhea. You may be constipated. It might be difficult to pass. It may be that it's incomplete, so it's less than it normally is, or you're going less than you normally would. I was quite regular, and I still was during the time up to my diagnosis. So if you get any kind of inconsistencies with your bowel movements, then once again, don't hesitate. Please just get yourself checked out. And number 6, I'm afraid it's another toilet poo type symptom, and that's something that I only recently learned during my research. I believe, in my pronunciation, I'll probably kill it, is called tenesmus. 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 And that's a feeling like you still have to poo. So it's an incomplete bowel movement. So you may have gone to the toilet, feel like you're done, but then minutes, hours later, it still feels like there's a bloating, there's something not quite right. So get it checked out. So, as I said, all of these symptoms don't necessarily mean you've got colon cancer. I'm not doing this video to scare, but to share and to make people aware that if you have a few of these symptoms, one of these symptoms, all of these symptoms, then 100% get yourself checked out. And that leads me to some anecdotal symptoms that I experienced that you may recognise if you're watching this so video. Those were the 6 symptoms that, if you Google symptoms of colon cancer, those are the ones that you'll generally see. I had some of them, I didn't have all of them, and to lesser and greater degree. And again, I can't urge that enough. You could be diagnosed with colon cancer in quite a late stage by absolute chance. You may not show any of the symptoms, but if you do, just be mindful and just get yourself checked, please. So I wanted to move on to some more, I say, anecdotal symptom stories of what I went through, because it was interesting, it was strange, there was clearly something not quite right, and I put it down to just being stressed and unhappy in life. But again, with the power of hindsight, I realised that it was all connected. So I've made a note of them so I don't miss anything. So number 1, and this was quite interesting, my partner and I, a few months before my diagnosis, we changed our diet. So we started eating, there's a book called How Not to Die by Michael Greger. Fascinating book. It basically promotes whole food, plant-based diet. And we got the cookbook, and I really struggled to eat this food. And the only reason I can think of looking back, because it's switched now, I don't eat junk food or processed foods. I couldn't eat nutritional food. So lots of vegetables, legumes, beans and things like that, I really struggled to eat. I'd have a few and my body almost rejected them. Now we know that when you've got cancer, the tumour kind of takes all the nutrition first. It's almost like if you're a mother and you're pregnant, the baby takes all the nutrition from the body, even if it's going to kill the host, the mother. The cancerous tumour does the same thing. So I found that really fascinating. Now, number 2, again, this was one of the reasons that I went to the GPs in the first place. I don't know or don't believe it to have been associated with my cancer, but I was peeing at night. So before I go to bed, I go to the toilet, get into bed, and then 10 minutes later I'd be back up again to go for a pee, and then about an hour later I'd get up again. Now I'm not sure. I asked the question, is it because of the tumours pressing on anything? It's the urethra's there, there's all the kind of structure of your body, vital organs and other things. I don't think I got an answer to that, but it was quite interesting. It was something else that was happening to me just before my diagnosis, so one to watch for. Now the other thing, these last two, I developed a rash on my back, which later turned out to be shingles. Now shingles is a sign of stress. I was extremely run down, which again I put down to not being happy, to just struggling. I had COVID back in the several months before that. I thought maybe it's long COVID, so I kept dismissing all these weird and wonderful symptoms that I was experiencing, and I would class myself as quite a healthy human in the sense that I don't get ill that often, and all this stuff was happening in probably 3 or 4 months. So again, very interesting. Now on the back of that, when I had shingles, a week or two later, a couple of weeks before that, I believe, I also had a chest infection, so it was quite severe. I had to have a round of antibiotics, and all I can say is that at that time my body was screaming at me, and it felt like my immune system was just shot. So clearly it was trying to fight something in my body, and all these other symptoms were developing: the shingles, the chest infection. I had anemia, so tiredness. I was just in a complete mess, and it sounds crazy to look back now and say that, but yeah, these are clearly symptoms of something not being quite right. So I urge you, if you show any of those symptoms, I'm not going to try and terrify you. It may well not be cancer. At the time when I had my blood tests, I was told it could be 100 things. Sadly for me, it wasn't. It was that one thing. So please get yourself checked. If you found this useful, please like and subscribe to this channel, and I will be posting more hopefully useful information in the near future. And if you've experienced any of these symptoms, or there's anything that you would add to the list, then please let me know in the comments below, and I'll definitely reply. Big love. Take care. Check your poo.